So, hi, Caroline. I'm so happy to be on a call with you again
Me
from a
too.
different place than
Yes.
last time we spoke.
Yeah, you're in one of my
Yeah.
favorite places now.
Yeah, I'm so in love with it. I can't even believe it.
So
Can't
exciting.
believe I'm here. Yeah. So, we are here today to talk about connection,
Yes.
which is the foundation of this new course that you created, which looks amazing. So, I've seen the sales page, obviously, I've seen the different modules, the way that you split it up. And it's so funny actually because when I first saw your course, I was literally like, oh my goodness, this is the course I have been meaning to create for like 5 years or something, and she's done it. It's
I love it.
amazing. So I had one of those moments of like, dude, this is what happens when you have an idea and you don't take action. Someone else gets the Liz Gilbert's thing
Yeah,
of like the idea goes off and finds
I
someone
love
else who
that.
will
I love
actually
that.
fucking do it. Yeah. So
Ever
yeah.
ever
Anyway,
since I've read that, I'm more like I've got to when an idea comes and it's strong, it's like I have to do it because I know the idea will abandon me and find someone else, find another
yeah.
host. But
Exactly. Exactly. It's kind of like the sense of urgency. I feel it more now as well, having read that. And also just having got to a point in my life where I've like had so many ideas that I haven't followed up on and then seen someone else do that. I'm like, no, that's a thing. Like
yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
listen
You have
and
to
when
connect.
something comes up.
Like the word connections is coming up. You have to connect to the idea and
Yeah.
cultivate it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe do you want to just maybe talk a little bit about sort of the different kinds of connection that are most important to you and that will be coming up in this course?
Yeah, okay. So um basically I've divided it into four because for me these are the four ways in which I connect and I think can be helpful for other people to connect. And I basically I created this course out of my I don't know, it's weird. It's like all the ingredients came together recently and it was like, oh, that, the life that I've created, the business that I've created, the relationship I've created, it's come from connection. It's come from being really connected to myself. So that's the first one. I mean, that for me is like the absolute utmost important connection we can have is our connection to ourselves. And by that, I suppose I mean um, really knowing ourselves, really having a relationship with ourselves. And I used to have a terrible relationship with myself. I mean, I used to say quite regularly years ago, I'm my own worst enemy. And I didn't like now when I think back that was so blasé for me to say that I'm my own worst enemy. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, no wonder I was so miserable. It seems crazy to me now that I couldn't see that was the source of all my problems, that I was my own worst enemy. So for me, connection to self it's not just knowing who we are, like really knowing beyond our insecurities and our fears and our doubts and all the crap that life can throw at us, over the years and our defense mechanisms that we build up in our mask. It's like going back to knowing who we are at our core. But then also cultivating a relationship. And it can be cultivating a relationship with the mask and the inner critic. Like there's a big section in the connection to self part, which I call truth, getting back to our truth, which is about the inner critic, that voice inside that, well, that just tells
The
us,
bitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
that tells us we can't, that has us hold back all the time. So it's that. It's like reconnecting to who we used to be before all the crap got piled on, and also how to navigate and manage the crap. So, like with the inner critic, a lot of people, will get like, yeah, I'm going to smash that inner critic. And, for me, what a big thing has been learning to love it, learning to see the wisdom in it, learning to embrace it and understand that that's my fear, that's the scared part of me that needs reassurance. We don't shout at a scared little child. That's not going to help the situation. So why would we do that to ourselves? And we do all the time. So that's connection to self in a nutshell, because it's a huge topic. And now we have the bells. I don't know if you can hear those, but
I'm
then
kind of enjoying them.
yeah, then there's like we move into torch, which is again it's still very much connection to self, but it's kind of looking forward. So the first section is very much seen as reviewing where I'm at in my life, reviewing all of that stuff. What is the situation? What holds me back? What doesn't? Who was I as a child? What were my dreams? All of that stuff. Really going deep with that. And then torch is like looking at our connection to our future self, our authentic self, our higher self. So who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? You know, what are my aspirations? What are my intentions for the future? What's the direction? And I've avoided using the word goals because I know some people have a real reaction to the word goals. I don't. I'm an ex-project manager, so I love goals. But I also know that goals in the traditional sense don't necessarily work. So I draw very much on Danielle Laporte's work, you know, in terms of the desire map. How do I want to feel? All of that stuff. So if I do use the term goals, I always say goals with soul, or intentions. So then that's torch. That's the second section that kind of, you know, lights the way basically for the direction that we want to go in. And then obviously the big other connection that we can think of is relationships. So section 3 of the program is tribe, and within that, I covered to the best I can in a week's module. Connection, you know, our relationships to others, basically, whether that's friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships. And I look at things like, you know, what are our triggers in relationships? Where might we have toxic relationships, for example? I know I let a lot of those go, you know, 5 or 6 years ago. And how we do that, how do we release, you know, the negative influences in our life if we have those? And then how do we call in more of what we want, you know? So how do we call in the man of our dreams if we haven't found him yet? And how do we call in the tribe of our dreams? That's the big one. You and I know very well. Sisterhood is so important to us. And so finding that group of people that lift you up, you know, and carry you forward rather than hold you back. So it's all of that, again, reviewing what's your situation, what's your relationship situation, and what does healthy connection look like in that sense? You know, what does it look like to have healthy relationships? What are the things that really get in the way of relationships? I mean, for me, I realized that the biggest connection killer when it comes to other people is my own insecurities. If I feel insecure, then I'm going to be defensive. I'm going to take things personally, you know. So it's looking at our role. You know, what can we do to kind of, I don't like using the word eradicate, but I guess eradicate those things within us that destroy our relationships and our connections with other people. And then the other is, and again, I hesitate to use the word God, but as an all-encompassing term, you know, the divine, the universe, that connection. I call it source in the program because I know that God can be a controversial word for a lot of people. And source, you can't really deny source. There is an energy behind life that we can't deny. We see it in the sea, in the oceans, we see it with the moon, we see it with nature, we see it everywhere. There is an energy behind life that we don't control. If for example, mankind were to be wiped out tomorrow, the universe would still exist, you know? And so it's that source that we can tap into, and we do tap into when we're creative, for example. You know, when we sit down to write a blog post or make a piece of art, you know, anyone who's ever done anything creative can attest to that feeling of it came through me. I don't know where it came from, but it didn't come from me. It came from somewhere else. And so that's what I look at in source. How can we cultivate that connection more deeply with that energy of life that comes through us? So they're the 3 main ways, and how the course kind of navigates us through that. So.
Yeah, that sounds completely delicious. Just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, I feel more connected already. And it's so the thing that strikes me actually, like in all of what you just said, is how it's it feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the focus isn't so much on kind of teaching stuff or like teaching, you know, to some extent sort of maybe teaching some ways of being with, for example, being with the inner critic, but to a large extent, it feels like it's about removing obstacles, removing mindsets that don't work, removing or dissolving, you know, energetic and psychological blockages that are holding us back. And it's more this process of unpacking and removing to clear to sort of clear the path so that we're just connected, because that's our natural state.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I hadn't put it in those terms before. I think the word that comes to my mind, and I realized that as I created the course, how many times I used it, was awareness. Because so often we just don't even see what's in the way. And so for me, a huge part of the program, a core ingredient that I hope makes it work for people, is just raising awareness. Like you say, just even hearing me go through those ways makes you feel more connected already. And I think that's my hope, that by just shining a light on the things that get in the way, and the things that and just reminders. Like I just remember I did a course months ago called Everyday Adventure, I think was the name. And in it, one of the workbooks had us go back to looking at our childhood and what brought us joy and, an adventure and things like that. And I just remember reconnecting with that part of myself just through questions, just having like that, the prompt, just the instruction or the reminder to go to that place. Because how often do we remember what we wanted to be when we were little, I mean, I do, because it was a writer. I desperately wanted to be a writer, and so that hasn't really gone away. But for so many people, it does. We just don't think about those things. And so my hope is that just raising awareness of a direction to look in. I think that's how I would put it. A direction to look in can change everything. I mean, how many of us? I know when I first learned about the inner critic, to use that example, I had no idea till I placed my attention on it that she was out of control, and that she was running the show. I just didn't know. And I think there's so many people, so many of us, I mean, and I still do, we do it all the time, no matter how many programs or courses we've done or books we've read, we numb out. And whether that's through watching, 5 episodes of our favorite show, or it's more extreme than that, and getting drunk every night, or taking drugs, we numb out by, whenever difficult emotions come up, it's easier not to be aware of everything. Because what we do, I mean, Brené Brown talks about this beautifully. I love it. We try and numb out the bad stuff, but what we don't realize is we're numbing out the good stuff. So when we numb out the painful memories from childhood, let's say, for example, like, I don't know, the crush and embarrassment of just being a teenager that occurs, what we also do is we numb out, or we suppress our memories of, wanting to be a prize award-winning writer. That was my dream, so we numb out everything, or we deny everything. So for me, a big thing is just awareness, having people think about these things again, and look at what's working and what's not. And if something's not working, why isn't it working? Why do you have the feelings of resentment, or whatever it might be, So yeah, but I like your way of describing it too.
Cool. So I want to sort of like get a bit personal with you.
Okay.
And just sort of just ask, really, for you, at a core level, why does this matter? Like, why do you give a fuck about helping people with this particular thing?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, I think all of my work comes from, I had a major transformation about 6 or 7 years ago, where through a series of events and universe timed teachers showing up in my life, I turned my life around. I did have, I was unhappy. I was living the corporate life, and I was unhappy in my job. I was a nightmare. My love life was a train wreck. And I remember, I think it was 2009 was like the worst year in a very long time. And I just got I asked for help, and the universe provided. I got the teachers. The books came my way. I discovered Brené Brown. All of this stuff started to happen, and my life changed. And it was back then, I made the commitment to general, personal growth work to help people, because I almost felt like, why me? Why do I get this information? It was a weird sensation, but it's almost a bit like survivor's guilt. It was like, oh gosh, I feel like I've been given the answers to life, and I have a duty to share these with people. So on a bigger picture, you know, there's that. And then more recently, because what it's interesting, because I've been on this journey of like walking away from a life that wasn't serving me and creating the life I dreamt about. I mean, it exceeds my dreams, you know, the life that I have built. But you know, in the last year, I started to feel flat again. I started to feel about my business, my coaching and my, you know, my personal growth work. I started to feel not quite the same, but a bit like I felt in my old corporate life. Like, you know, why am I doing this? What's the point? I felt disconnected from it. And so what's been really interesting is around the same time as deciding I'm going to build a program about connection, I was feeling really disconnected. And I wrote a post about it that you might have seen about authenticity, because I realized that I'd stopped being true to myself. And what happens is, I think, and it definitely happens for me, and I'm on it now, I watch it, I'd achieved a level of success in my life, and then we think, okay, well, that's the way to do it. I'll just keep doing the same thing. And you know, with the assumption that the happiness and the joy and the success continues to grow. Well, it doesn't. I mean, I can tell you that, you know, from personal experience, I can tell you it doesn't. And so I realized that what had worked for me to get me to the point I was at the end of last year and earlier this year no longer served me. I didn't want to coach in the way that I was coaching. I didn't want to work with the people I'd been working with. I wanted to do things completely differently, and I had not allowed myself to connect to that desire. And so more recently, it's like, oh my goodness. And the energy, when I made the break, when I changed and I decided, okay, even though I've been really successful there, I'm pulling back from that. It doesn't serve me. I don't want to do that. I'm going to work with these kind of people. I'm going to build a program. That was a departure for me. I'd been very focused on my one-to-one work. I want to be more creative in my business. You know, I love coaching, but having a 90-minute conversation with someone, for me, is not the same as writing for 90 minutes. It's a very different feeling. It requires a very different energy. And I had neglected that part of me, that creative part of me. So what I've realized in my own journey in the last year is how important it is, you know, you don't just reconnect once and it's like, oh, now I'm reconnected and now I, you know, it's like a daily practice. It's like, what does my soul want to do today? How do I feel? You know, what do I desire? All of that stuff. And I'm trying. I build. I mean, part of the program is that building those processes in for checking in with ourselves, you know, and again, that comes from cultivating the relationship with ourselves. But yeah, personally, I realize that when I'm fully connected, I'm unstoppable. I mean, I feel a bit shy to say that, but that's how I feel. I have so much energy and passion. I can't not create, you know? So yeah, from that standpoint as well, I've realized, even though my life was amazing, I still experience disconnection. And it feels very fresh in my mind, the sensation that comes from reconnecting, like what happened, and it's just incredible. It feels amazing. It's like being, you know, rather than feeling like I'm having to struggle towards something or like against the wind, you know, that was the image that came to my mind the other day. You know, when you were out in England is where the thought comes from, and you're almost like the wind could knock you over if you weren't leaning forward. You know, we can go through life like that, or we can have the wind behind us, and then it's just like, oh my God, and the difference is huge. And so for me, connection, the big thing with connection is energy. You know, when we're fully connected, the energy that gives us for our life and our dreams and our passions, for me, and that's so super important for me. Like I couldn't build the business I'm building. I couldn't do the work that I do. I couldn't have the relationship I have. I couldn't have the life that I want. I'm about to have a baby. I need energy for that. I'm gonna have to be connected, you know. So yeah, and so because I realize how important it is for me, then again, I just think it's so important to share, because if it has this impact on my life, then for sure it must have a similar impact on others.
Love it. And you know what? It just the thing that came up for me, because I totally echo your sentiments, and I'm, you know, I thought more than 10 years ago that I had this whole connection to self thing down, you know, like, you know, the way you do when you're young and arrogant. You're like, oh, I figured that out. I'm good to go now. And you know, and your life shifts because of the, you know, the level of understanding that you have. And then you get the next life challenge, and that level of understanding isn't enough to take you through. So it reminds me of that video game analogy, you know, how you master one level of connection to self, connection to other, connection to source. And then sort of life is like, well, here you go. Here's your next learning opportunity, your next opportunity for growth, you know, and then you're like, oh shit, well, those things aren't working. I'm stuck. Fuck. And something new has to so that there's a leveling up that has to happen, and for that to happen, because you can't do that from here, you have to be open to that inner source of wisdom that will tell you exactly what you need to do. But if you're blocking and constricted and, you know, listening to all the fear voices and not connected, you can stay stuck in that position for a while. So it's kind of, in my life, it for sure, it's been like connected, massive disconnect, disconnect. Okay, connected, you know, and each time it's like this leveling up. But it's, I mean, and that's what's so fascinating to me about this whole journey, right? Is that it's like especially sort of these really core aspects of how to be a human being, you're never done with it. You're never done. Like, they come, you know, these issues, like, they come back in your life again and again, but you're going to a deeper level, or, you know, or a higher level, however you want to, you know, however that makes sense to you. But you're going further into your understanding and way of being with that aspect of life. So it's, super powerful. So what I'm trying to say with that actually is just that I love how broadly applicable this course is, because it doesn't matter whether you're someone who's never done any personal development at all, or you're someone who's done like 20 years of personal development. This shit is the shit. Like, and the level that you're at is the level that you will sort of digest and embody what you're, you know, taking from the course.
Yeah, I love it. And what I think, as you say that, because, and maybe you've had experience with this, I've been coaching people for the last couple of years, and I still need help with the thing. I can get off a call and coaching someone on a specific issue, and then I can have the exact same issue in my life, and I need to, you know, talk to my boyfriend who's also a coach, or get on a call with a coach, because, you know, again, it's that, you know, I would like to think in my line of work, you know, with the things that I do, that I am quite self-aware and I'm obsessed with personal growth, but we have blind spots. We always have blind spots. And so for me, I know that I would be, you know, if I were to assume that, you know, a job done, I've done the work, I'd be shooting myself in the foot, because it's just, it's a journey. It's an ongoing journey. And it's a relationship. You know, if we're talking about, you know, connection to others, connection to ourselves, and connection to source, each of those represent relationships. And you don't just form a relationship and then stop, you know, like all relationships. I don't like to use the words take work, but they're active, you know. You don't just, oh, I've made that relationship, I never have to call that person again, or I never have to, you know, do anything nice for that person. You cultivate and you deepen all the time, in all relationships. So, well, I mean, if you want them to work, that's what needs to happen. And so it's the same with this stuff. It's the same with our relationship, you know, to ourselves, and ongoing.
Totally. Moment to moment practice. Yeah. So what's your what would you say is your intention for people taking the course? Like what's your what are you hoping that they will come away with? And actually, the word that is coming up for me is like possibility, because it feels like, to me, like the way that you were saying at the beginning, how you've created this incredible life that goes beyond what you'd ever dreamed of. And to me, it's that's what connection provides, is that it opens up unlimited possibility. And that's so cool, because the name of your website and your whole brand is Life is Limitless. So it totally, for me, that is absolutely what that level of connection, when we really prioritize it and commit to being connected to ourselves and to honoring that connection and to listening and practicing really living from that space, then it's like the whole world opens up and suddenly everything is possible. Yeah. I feel like I've just answered the question.
No, you have. I don't know if I can do better than that. No, it's true. No, it's true. It's true. And I think, again, the word that keeps coming to my mind is awareness. Like for people to be, I think I always talk about awareness being the first step in any transformation. We have to know the situation before we can change it. So I always talk about awareness and acceptance being, such a dynamic duo that I think can change anything. And so for me, the hope is that limitless possibilities and complete life-changing effects, but on a more basic level, having that awareness of who you are, what you want, and the direction that you want to move in. For me, that's so powerful. When I identify something that I want, and it can seem so basic. Well, I think about what I want all the time, some people could say, but I felt in my life, and maybe you felt it too, that when I get really clear on my intentions and my desires, crazy things happen. And so often we're too terrified to even contemplate our dream. We don't think about, because it can be painful. If you're stuck in a 9-to-5 job that you hate, with a mortgage, that you can just about afford, the idea of thinking back to your childhood dreams or your dreams of traveling the world or, whatever it may be, can feel really painful. We just don't want to do it. We don't want to connect with the truth of who we are, and that's why acceptance you can't just have awareness. If you don't have awareness with acceptance, then that's when the self-judgment comes and we start to get upset with ourselves and frustrated. It's the big thing I talk about with the work around inner critic. When you really start to become aware of how violent you are to yourself with your thoughts, many of us are, then we can get to a stage, and I remember this stage very well when I went through it, of beating ourselves up for beating ourselves up. So I'm going around the houses a bit, but I think essentially that allowing ourselves to even be aware of who we are, who we truly are, and what we truly desire is epic. It seems so basic, but I actually think it's completely transformational, because I think many of us don't even allow that, because it's scary. It's scary to face the truth, especially if there's a big gulf between the truth and our current situation. But the only way to even begin to bridge that gulf is to become aware of the truth. So I think that's a big intention for me, and it keeps throughout the conversation. It keeps coming up. Awareness. It just feels so crucial. Yeah,
it's consciousness, right? It's like it's the thing. It is the most potent transformational tool that we have. Yeah. I got really moved when you were saying that, actually, because I'm like, it does feel really courageous. I know for me it has required a lot of courage to look back to childhood and say, what are the dreams that I had, and are those still alive for me? And there are a couple that are very alive, and where it does hurt. It hurts to not have followed those things, and it hurts to acknowledge, the disconnect that happened, and and there's a lot, a big practice of self-forgiveness that's necessary there as well. And that's also something that we're not taught. We don't find it modeled very often, and that's kind of also for me, it's such a huge, huge practice in this, the cultivating the connection to myself is, being aware, accepting, forgiving, loving, moving forwards, with intention. But constantly that cycle of like, oh yeah, I hurt myself there. Okay. Yeah. I'm with the pain. Okay. I forgive myself. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah. This constant cycle. And it's not all of that is comfortable, but it's when you start seeing the possibility that opens up when you do this work, it's more than enough motivation. But I think I always feel like that's the sort of the part that you have to sell people on when they're not in this practice, is like, okay, I know this is going to kind of suck at the beginning, but I promise it's gonna absolutely revolutionize your world, and you will be so grateful that you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's scary at the beginning.
It is scary, and I think that's why a lot of people turn back. I remember a while ago, I was like, oh my goodness, I've worked out the process of transformation. And it's like there's A, B, and C. There's where we are is the A, C is where we want to get to, and B is the shit. B is the like, oh my God, and so we leave A because it feels uncomfortable, and we have these deep desires, and we dream of C, and we think, oh, I have to get there, and then we start to move into B, and it's like, wait a minute, this is more painful than A was. Why am I doing this? This is crazy. A was way more comfortable than this. So we go back to A. And then with time, it's like we become restless again. No, I want change. C looks so amazing. And we try again. And I watch people, and I did it myself for years. We go from A to B and back again because we don't realize it's like, just keep going. It's just on the other side of B, it's like, but there is a process, and it can be painful, and it's definitely more uncomfortable than your current position. For sure. But I think, I don't know about you. I mean, I know this to be true of you, that you do wade through B regularly. And I think as I did it more and more in my life, it's like, oh, I know about the gold on the other side. And once you know, but if you've never done it, if you've only ever got to B and kind of gone, this is too painful, and gone back again, you don't know it exists. It's like, well, maybe it does for those people, but they have this and they have that, and they, but maybe it's just not for me. And that's what we do. That's where the inner critic comes up. No, not you. This isn't for you. Freedom and and the perfect relationship and travel, and so So I think I love that. I love making that point because it is difficult. It is difficult. It can be, but it's so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah. So like what comes up for me then is in that period where there's a shit ton of resistance and it's uncomfortable as fuck, and all you want to do is go back to A. What role does community and support play, and how is that built into your program?
Great. That's a great question. Well, for me, just to say on a personal level, when I've realized that people who I thought, oh, yeah, it's okay for them to do it, and then I've realized that they have the same fears, the same insecurities, the same doubts that I do, it's like, holy crap, oh my God. So that for me is really huge, seeing other people's struggle, but watching them not give up. And I've experienced that in groups I've been in programs I've been in, and I see it a lot in the groups that I facilitate, and it's so powerful. It's really powerful. We did a connection kickstart a couple of weeks ago where over 100 people signed up to do 14 days kind of practices and journaling prompts, and I've never seen anything like it. It was incredible, the interaction we got in the group in terms of people sharing their struggles. And there's just something, I don't know, it's like a permission slip when you see somebody else going through the same thoughts and processes as you, and you realize, oh, I'm not different, because our inner critic would have us believe, well, mine definitely does. I mean, that's the MO of my inner critic. You're different to everybody else. You can put me in any room and my inner critic will make me the odd one out, whatever. I mean, and it contradicts itself. So, I can be the odd one out in that room. And so it's crazy. And I think having people around us who are also trying to get to see and are also trying to, walk in this path is super powerful. So in the program, we have a Facebook group where the original Kickstarters are still in it. So there's already a community that exists and people who are sharing about connection and disconnection and their struggles and their joys, and it's inspirational. And then and the participants will share their experiences of the program there. And then there's 5 group calls in the program. So it's a 30-day program, 4 weeks. So there's one call a week for the 4 weeks, and then we have a final group call together to kind of share insights and, what's come up and what's not. So yeah, my hope is that, because I think it's really important, and I see the power. I was doing one-to-one work for years, and then moved into group work with my women's circle, and the power of the group, it's incredible, and as a facilitator, it's so wonderful to step back and watch what happens when people just connect with each other on a similar goal, on a similar journey. I think it's incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I'm wondering if there's anything else that you feel like sharing around connection or the course.
No, the only thing is that I've stated this throughout the program, is it can seem intense because it's 30 days and there's 20 lessons and 4 modules and lots of PDFs and all of that stuff, workbooks, and so I've been stressing a lot to people that it's you have lifetime access to the materials, which will be updated and upgraded, and I'm going to be including lots more resources from other people as well. I've got a bit of that in the program so far, interviews with other coaches and things like that. And so that even though it's a live program for 30 days, it's not something you have to complete in the 30 days. In fact, I say in the welcome video, it's impossible. It would be impossible to get through all the materials in 30 days. So yeah, just in case people are thinking, I don't have the time to do an intense course in this particular time frame, that it's lifetime access. And it's like that for a reason, because as we've been talking, it's an ongoing process. You don't just do a 30-day course in connection and then job done, tick, and I've designed it that way that you can go back in and there's, different depths that you can go to with each topic. So maybe this round you only do one of the exercises for the inner critic chapter, for example, but there are 2 or 3, so you can go in deeper. And so yeah, that feels important to share. It looks intense, but it doesn't have to be. I say to people, even if you only do one of the 5 classes in week 1, that's enough. That it doesn't matter. You can go back anytime and do the others.
Gorgeous. I love that framework of just go at your own pace.
Yeah.
And that it feels very expansive, because I think people have so much going on already, and then we put all that pressure on ourselves of like, I have to do everything that I could be doing or whatever. So that's fantastic. Lots of permission to go at your own pace.
For sure.
Yeah. Yummy. Well, I cannot wait to start. So what date does it start?
So it starts on the 17th of October, and the enrollment closes on the 12th, Wednesday the 12th of October. So just a few days between the enrollment closing and then we get started. Very excited.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this little jam with me. It's been wonderful just to actually play with this, all these ideas with you, and hopefully it'll give a good idea of what the course is going to be like, and the vibe of it, and the intention, and the magnitude of possibility that lies in mastering this skill. Super exciting. So thank you.
Thank you for having the conversation. It's been wonderful. I always love talking to you.